¡Ay! Estamos en México, tierra del sol. Viva, viva. Well, actually, no, we're still on the United States side. We're in San Isidro by the busiest border crossing in the Western Hemisphere between Tijuana and San Diego. And what you will find at most border crossings between two countries are Casas de Cambio, the money exchange houses. And the reason we're showing you this is because this is exactly how transactions are done on Wall Street and the major exchanges around the world. We see one price on the internet when we look it up, on your phone or whatever. But no, there are dozens of prices, and there's not just one, there's two different prices. As we discussed in the presentation, there is the wholesale price, which is called the bid price, and then there's the retail price, which is called the ask price. Now, wouldn't it be nice if they just used wholesale and retail, because that makes a whole lot more sense? No, you got to learn that, okay? And the difference between these two prices is called the spread. Now, these three Casas de Cambios at the top of this sheet here, top of the slide, are very close to one another, and they're in an area on San Isidro Boulevard that is just chock full of Casas de Cambio. The competition for your dollars and pesos is very keen. These are a little further afield. In fact, this one is right one of the last ones you have before you walk across. So what are we looking at here? Notice that these three companies are all the same company, but they're competing against themselves. Figure that one out. Now, they might be franchised, so who knows? But these two are right 100 yards away from one another, 100 meters away from one another. Now, what's going on here? If you want to buy pesos with your dollars, that's why it says compra. Comprar is the Spanish word for to buy. You give them $1 and they will give you 18.419 pesos. 100 yards away, they'll give you 18.429 pesos. Now, that's not a really big difference, right? But still, some people might say, hey, well, if you're going to convert a lot of cash, a lot of dollars into pesos, well, it makes sense for you to use the best one. But what happens when you want to take your pesos and turn them back into dollars? Well, that's when they will sell you the dollars for your pesos, and this company's going to want 18.5, and this one's going to want the same, 18.5. Now, here's another major competitor called BUS123, and the picture didn't come out as well. But notice they're also paying you 18.429 pesos when you buy pesos, but they want a little bit more when you bring your pesos back and want to buy dollars. They want 18.568. Now, typically these three companies are really, really close to one another. But I guess BUS123 has, they haven't, we got enough pesos. We really, we don't really want that many. So if you want your dollars, you're going to have to pay us more pesos. Now, what happens if we just move a little bit further afield from that area of concentration? Here's, again, BUS123 and ABC, competitors against other companies and themselves, and they're only going to give you 18.356 pesos for every dollar, and they want 18.536 when you buy dollars. And similar here, they're going to pay you 18.359, and you have to pay them, if you want to buy dollars back with your pesos, 18.653. You see how the spread is getting a little larger? And then here's a company that's drive-through. I guess you have to pay more. But they're only going to give you 18.35 pesos for every dollar. And if you want to convert your pesos back into dollars, they want 19 pesos. Do you see a pattern? Let's take a look at the next slide. Here are two San Isidro Casas de Cambio that are further afield, further away from that area of concentration. 18.3 pesos, 18.659 pesos to buy dollars. And this one, they're only going to give you 18 pesos for $1. And they're going to ask for 18.8 pesos when you convert your dollars back into pesos. You see what's happening to the spreads? As the competition for your dollars and pesos, back and forth, becomes less, as there's less dealers making the transactions, the spread gets larger. Now notice, I don't know if you noticed, but all of these guys said no commission. Well, this guy, you don't see him, but because he got cut off. But all these guys, all these dealers, all these Casas de Cambio are acting as dealers, or another term for that is market makers. They're not charging you a commission. What's going on here? Right across the street from the Bahamex and the ABC is a TJ currency exchange. Wait a minute. They're offering us 19.5 pesos for every dollar, but they want 20 pesos to get our dollars back. What's going on here? Well, do you notice that there's no saying no commission, no commission here? Right. These people are going to give you 19.499 pesos, but they're going to charge you a commission. So they are operating as a market maker, a dealer, and a broker. And that's perfectly legal in the securities world as well as Casas de Cambio, as long as they divulge it. As long as they divulge it. And I'm not sure about this one, but another one of these Casas de Cambio that charge a commission say, we don't charge commission when you bring your pesos and buy dollars, but we do charge a commission when you bring your dollars and buy pesos. Now, I always thought it was going to be the commission was going to be at 3%, maybe 5%, but I never bothered to ask. And so this time I went up and I started chatting up the woman there, because usually when you come and take pictures and start asking questions, they get really angry at you. They want you to go away. I had to explain myself a couple of times to guys who were very upset that I was taking pictures, because there's all these hawkers out there watching what the other people are charging and trying to get people to come in the doors. 9%. 9%. Whoa, okay, oh boy. I was amazed that they're getting away with that. But hey, she was very personable. She said, well, it's business, we're doing our best we can. I said, well, muchísimos éxitos. I was that. She was very, very pleasant, unlike some of the other people. Now, finally, okay, now we're in Tijuana. And I got to tell you, folks, I have no idea why this is true. But in general, you're going to get fewer dollars for fewer pesos for your dollars, right? Notice we were looking at 18.3, 18.1 was 18.49, 429. But here, the Tijuana Casas de Cambio are only going to give you 18 or 18.051 or 18.101. But at the same time, they want fewer pesos to buy back the dollars. So you're probably not going to worry about this because we're not talking about a lot of money, usually you and I, as we go down there. But if you want to buy pesos, do it on the United States side. And then if you want to bring your pesos back into dollars, do it on the Tijuana side, okay? Now, many stores in Mexico, now there used to be a store in San Isidro that would accept pesos, but they really gave you a horrible exchange rate. I thought, oh my goodness, okay, well, I'm not going to do business with you. But many stores in Mexico, the gas stations usually give you a really good rate. I don't know why that is, but they usually give you more than what the Casas de Cambios will give you. But many stores in Mexico will accept your dollars. You think they don't really want your dollars, they want pesos, and they'll give you change in pesos. But hey, they want your business, so they're trying to make it easy for you. Now notice, these spreads are pretty small, not too large, similar to what was going on in San Isidro. So let's think. If we had $1,000, we could go to the best place in San Isidro, and that's 18.429. So that would be 18,429 pesos we'd get. Run across the border, and then buy the dollars back for 18.2 pesos to the dollar, which means you'll have a grand total of about $15, which is enough to buy a really nice lunch in TJ. So you and I are not going to be doing arbitrage, as it's called, to convert our dollars to pesos and then back into pesos to dollars. But electronically, right, that goes on quite a bit in the world of investments. But you got to have a lot of money because you're only looking at teeny little spreads. Because yeah, that's the way it works. We see a fairly small but still substantial spread in some of these cases. But when you're on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ and you're dealing with very large companies, there's thousands, millions of shares being traded. The spread is tiny. And so trying to do arbitrage is very, very difficult. And that's where you might want to read a book called Flash Boys, which is woefully out of date because the technology has moved so much forward in advance. But it shows just how difficult it is to play that game where you're buying and selling and trying to make money off the spread. Next slide shows us what happens when you leave areas like San Isidro and northern Tijuana. Because when you get to the airport or a bank or a tourist destination, the spreads get huge. Now notice, they're only going to ask you 18.39, 18.33 pesos to change into a dollar. But what are they giving you when you have your dollars to go into pesos? Remember, we were seeing 18.3, 18.2. Here in the airport, this is the Tijuana airport. This is before you get inside the security, and this is after you get inside the security. 17.5, 17.689. And this is what will happen to you when you go to a tourist location, no matter where you go, but we're talking about Mexico. And that's why typically you want to, if you're going to change dollars into pesos before you get out of Mexico, do it in San Isidro, because you'll get the best rate of return. Other people will say, no, don't bother. Use your credit card, take out your debit card and go to the ATM machine. But some of those ATM fees are pretty high, folks, in Mexico. Some are very reasonable. And that's why you want to take a look at a company like Schwab Bank, not the brokerage firm, because they will rebate your ATM fees, no matter where you are in the world. I had a hard time believing that. But someone said, oh, yeah, try it out. So I called Schwab, and they said, yeah, we do that. That's what we do. I said, why do you do that? They said, it's very simple. We could build out our own ATM global network, which would cost billions of dollars, or we could just pay the other people. I said, oh, okay, makes sense. Now, what's going on here? This is a company that's been around for decades. They're on the walkway towards the center of town, and their heyday was back when there would be a sea of gringos with shorts and United States T-shirts and baseball caps walking across the border to Avenida Revolucion and buying junk, velvet paintings of Elvis and Jesus. And I have a hard time believing that they really were made out of donkey dung, but they were cigarettes made out of manure. They sold them. I don't know who bought them. And then you get your picture taken on top of a donkey painted as a zebra. But they're still around, even though the sea of gringos is not there anymore. Notice they also will buy your gold and give you a horrible price. But this is actually not a bad spread, is it? Right? No, it looks like something we would see over on the United States side. But what's missing here? It's hard to see, but it says cobramos comisión. They do charge a commission. So they're acting as a dealer, market maker, and a broker for pesos, dollars, and notice they will buy and sell your euros. But look at that spread. They'll give you 15 pesos for a euro, and the euro is about $1.15, $1.16 or so around these days. Used to be $1.20 now. It's gone down a little bit. And so they're only going to give you 15 pesos. And if you want to buy those, you want to take your pesos and buy back the euros, it's going to cost you 22 pesos. So you see what's going on here? There's no competition whatsoever. Nobody else in Tijuana. I haven't seen people in San Isidro buying and selling euros. So sure, pay up, pay up. And now this is typical. This one in the upper right-hand corner of what you will see when you go to a tourist location. They will give you, it's not a bad, convert your pesos back into dollars, 18.59. But what's going on here? 17.099. Right. They're really giving you much fewer pesos than most other people will for your dollars. And this is what goes on when you leave the New York Stock Exchange, when you leave the NASDAQ. And that's why in the presentations, I keep hammering at you, stay away from the OTC markets, the over-the-counter markets, the bulletin board, the pink sheets. They don't even call them that anymore. But this is where the undesirable or companies that are really, really hit on hard times, or simply sham companies. They're not real companies. They're somebody's garage in Iowa or Idaho or one of those places that starts with the letter I. And so you'll hear people say, well, maybe I can beat them at their own game with these penny stocks. You know, it's selling for 7 cents. Sure, you buy it for 7 cents, so you buy 10,000 or 100,000 shares. You turn around and see what the bid, that was the ask price, that was the retail price. The bid price might be 5 cents, which is 2 pennies. Yeah, but it's over 20%. You just lost 20% by buying that stock. So don't think you can outsmart these charlatans. And that's what they are, folks. They're sharks. Just stay away from them, who are buying and selling these penny stocks. You think you can beat them at their own game. There's an old saying about poker. If you don't know who the patsy is, you don't know who the sucker is at the table, you're the sucker. You're the patsy. So does this make sense? We hope so, because this is exactly what's going on in the securities markets. There are 2 prices: the ask price, the retail price, and the bid price, the wholesale price. And the difference is called the spread. Cool. Be awesome, dear students. And si quieres ir a Tijuana y quieres saber unos restaurantes muy buenos, if you want to go to TJ or Point South and you want to learn about some really awesome restaurants, contact me. And I know a few that I love, but there are just so many great places to eat down in Mexico. Thank you so much for being in our class. You are awesome.